Wisdom is the principal thing, said the wisest person that ever lived. If there is one virtue that I so desired in my life was wisdom. So some years back, I did a research on the wisest people that ever lived on earth. One name kept cropping up, Solomon. Solomon was a king of great stature. And one thing about Solomon, he left footprints on earth. And these footprints were 3 books that he wrote during his lifetime. The first book was the book of Proverbs. Another book was the book of Ecclesiastes. Another book was called the Songs of Solomon. So during my research, I researched to find out what really made Solomon wise and what actually was the essence of his wisdom. So in my further research, I realized that the book of Ecclesiastes was the last book that he wrote, and he wrote this book at his old age. And when you look at this book, more than just the writings, they were meditations of his heart. So he has lived through life, and he was looking back on his life and just reflecting on the meditations. And these meditations were captured in words, and these words are what makes the book of Ecclesiastes. And so I decided to read this book because I assumed that when I read this book diligently, then the mantle of the wisdom of Solomon will rest on me. And you see, Ecclesiastes is a very short book. So I sat down, read the book first, the second time, and then after reading the second time, I laid back, waiting for this mantle of wisdom that was on Solomon to rest on me. And I waited for a very long time, and it never rested. But the question is this: if this was the wisest person that ever lived, what is wisdom? And how can an individual gain that category or that stature of wisdom that Solomon had? You see, wisdom has been symbolized in so many ways. One of the ways that stands out most for me is the story about the wise and the foolish builders. Here is an excerpt. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it fell not. Why? For it was founded upon a rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them in practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. The only difference between these two sets of builders is that on one end, one builder was applying what he had heard, and on the other end, they were not applying. So at the core of it, wisdom is the application of words. And these words are symbolism, because these words can be words of instruction, it can be knowledge, it can be advices, or it can be application of wisdom gained through life experiences. But specifically, we want to explore a specific kind of wisdom that is gift-based, because we are talking about the gift of wisdom. There are 4 types of wisdom on earth. The first type of wisdom is called the wisdom from above, or the heavenly wisdom, or the wisdom that is divine. The second category of wisdom is the earthly wisdom, or the natural wisdom. The third category of wisdom is the sensual wisdom, or intellectual wisdom. The fourth kind of wisdom is the diabolic wisdom, or the demonic wisdom. Now, to start with the diabolic wisdom, this is wisdom that is accessed and interfaced through occultic means. So it can involve sorcery, witchcraft, necromancy, magic. Okay, I wouldn't want to dwell on that. But the main objective of this kind of wisdom, or people that access this kind of wisdom, is for control and for manipulation. Now, sensual wisdom is the kind of wisdom that appeals to the senses. And the main way of accessing this kind of wisdom is through education and learning, so that you and I or any other person becomes an authority or an expert in a specific kind of field or a mountain of influence. So you can be a lawyer, doctor, there are so many. Now, natural or earthly wisdom is an inborn wisdom. For instance, when our daughter was born, we didn't have to teach her how to suckle. her mother's breast. Actually, it's so interesting that hours after she was born, she knew how to get to the breast and she knew how to suckle. This was a natural wisdom that she was born with. But the highest level of wisdom is the wisdom from above, or divine wisdom, or heavenly wisdom. The only way you can get this kind of wisdom is through having a personal relationship with Christ, because Christ is the power and wisdom of God. The objective of this wisdom is for insight and for revelation. Some of the attributes of this wisdom is that it's pure, from a pure heart, it's peaceable, it seeks out peace, it is gentle, it is willing to yield, it is full of mercy and good fruits, it's without partiality, without hypocrisy, without bitter envy or self-seeking tendencies. This is divine wisdom. So we ask ourselves again, who is wise and understanding amongst us? Let them show by good conduct that their work is done in meekness of wisdom. Let's link up in the next lecture.